Hello everybody. This will be a video just me looking and going over the long-term views of Bitcoin and just kind of see where we're headed and just kind of using and going over the chart that I've been kind of following since about 2019. So a good 3 years in this chart, and it still hasn't really been invalidated, and it works pretty well just for a long-term view of when you want to kind of swing trade and look at Bitcoin from like a long-term investment kind of asset, and just kind of using it as kind of a swing trade type deal. So make sure to like and subscribe. I usually don't really do too many videos like this, but maybe I'll do more in the future. But again, this is just looking at the long-term outlook of Bitcoin right now. So what I am doing is just pulling up the Brave New Index Liquid Index for Bitcoin on the weekly time frame. And since this is a long-term perspective, just looking at Bitcoin from really the beginning of time when it was at pennies towards to what it's doing right now, I'm just going to turn on the log chart, and that will just provide a nice clean outlook of showing the Bitcoin price steadily going up and down over the years. Mainly, it's been going up really since about 2012. We're up like 300,000%. So this kind of predicts and kind of maps out what Bitcoin will do in the future. This chart has been very powerful. I've been following it since 2019. Thanks to the Twitter guy, Dave the Wave. Shout out to him. He kind of pointed this out and just kind of showing the log chart. It wasn't a very popular opinion for quite some time until recently, where Plan B kind of got his stock to flow ratio thing wrong. And really, Dave the Wave was still on the spot for kind of calling out a Bitcoin low. So the lines or the curves you see on my chart, just in kind of the blue here, is that here you can see like the top, or when we are kind of overbought. What was interesting is that last May, it looked like we were actually approaching like a super high, which would have been at around $80,000 in Bitcoin. I was quite surprised that we didn't get up all that way, but nevertheless, it was quite a manic rally of like 500% in the Bitcoin price. So again, I'm not really too surprised either that we didn't go up to that 80K region. But anyways, it was looking at it and kind of predicting to see, based off of the log chart, that about 75,000 to 80,000 Bitcoin was really in play here, especially with respect to the upper channel of the log chart. Anyways, the kind of the medium or the low of the log chart, this curvature down and this curvature down here, is really what Dave calls the buy zone. This is where you tend to want to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible, really. And then, of course, any place out of the log or the buy zone here is really when you want to start to look to take profits and really start to start saving up again once price does come back down into the buy zone. What's interesting too, just looking and scrolling in a little bit more, is that we barely touched the buy zone at around 25K when we did come down. What's interesting too is that this was a golden pocket. So I'm just going to draw a fib from the swing high to the swing low here, and it looks like we did bust through the golden pocket. I am actually gonna turn these on log chart. So we did bounce about out of the 382. The 382 is still coming at around 23,000, but nevertheless, will we really get there? There is a possibility, as we haven't really fully touched into the buy zone. So it's interesting nevertheless. If we do kind of push us up a little bit more and just kind of out throwing the black swan from the March 2020 crash kind of out of the window, we do see that we did get somewhat of a bounce off of that 382 level, But again, there is a possibility that we could come down again towards the 23K level, as that is the 382. I believe the stock market, if we look at that from the March 2020 lows to the high that happened back in like October, November, that did bounce off of a 382 quite nicely to the exact dollar, and we've been been rallying ever since, even if the news doesn't really seem like it or not. But again, nevertheless, something interesting to look at. I've noticed that whenever we are in a bullish structure or kind of a bull market still, that price does like to go back and retest that 382 and then continue upwards again. So anyways, if we do see a major pullback, again, 23K to about 24K is quite possible, as that will be a pullback to the 382. And again, it'll be looking at into the buy zone. However, again, price hasn't really closed within the buy zone that much. So it makes me wonder that we might, the buy zone itself, the very top of it, might really act as sort of a quick support, and then we will kind of bounce up from that. But it'll be interesting to see in the future of just what kind of happens and what kind of plays out. But nevertheless, this has been a very accurate predictor and just kind of looking at things. The next thing I really want to point out too, I'm just going to delete this Fibonacci retracement from the low here, is that I added kind of another curvature, which is kind of mapping out the whole quote unquote bull market cycle. In my opinion, I think cycles are kind of lengthening and shortening at the same time, where, for example, this has really shown we had a May 2020 or May 2021 top, and then we did have a short-term bear market during that summer, and then we kind of had another bull market up again, and then now we've been kind of in a medium-term bear market for about 7 months roughly. So again, what's happening is, what I've noticed is that kind of diminishing cycles, along with kind of diminishing returns, along with kind of diminishing volatility for that sake. So there could be really not too many possibilities that we will see a big drop down like this, sudden spike move down, really in ever the future of Bitcoin price. Just as the probabilities and the possibilities kind of decrease with that for kind of over time. So again, just very interesting to kind of look at and just kind of map out. So what I did, just going based off of that, is that I did draw the curves, just kind of mapping from the top to the top of each quote unquote cycle, and then kind of stretching out that curve line and just kind of mapping it down towards the medium of the buy zone, and then just kind of doing that for the previous cycle, so from 2013 to 2017, and then I kind of did that again. And what's interesting is that this curvature line is pointing up towards somewhat of a top coming up at the end of the year. Now, there is still a possibility for this to happen. What would really need to happen is that we need to see something similar to 2017, kind of late 2016 of what Bitcoin did, where it kind of went into this kind of manic, crazy, parabolic mode again. So we'll need to see about a 350% rise within about 6 months or less. So is this really possible or probable? It's kind of starting to not really play out as well. Really, if we do kind of zoom out a little bit more and just kind of take this curved line and extend it towards the middle of 2023, then a 350 or 400% move, as the price target will actually extend out more. We would be looking at $135,000 Bitcoin, as that is a 400% move, and it will take roughly about 10 months to really get there from where we are right now. taken for granted that at the moment there is still a possibility that we didn't really bottom, just based off of drawing the fib from the swing low to kind of the swing high, as we didn't really touch that 382, nor have we really been inside of the buy zone. You can argue that we did kind of bounce up from the buy zone and kind of dip down kind of briefly. However, looking at past cycles here, price tends to kind of hover into the buy zone, not necessarily dropping down deeper or lower, but just kind of going sideways for a few months' time, as price just kind of consolidates before kind of moving up. So that is another thing to be interesting and just kind of look at. Really, just looking at this too is really the possibility that the top in the end of 2023, it would give us about $125,000 Bitcoin, whereas we did wait a little bit longer, a few more months, and really the gains somewhat kind of go up towards roughly about $135,000 Bitcoin. So $100,000 is still in the hopes for about the end of the year. Let's say that we take like 2 more months to really bottom out here. And so that would kind of put us into mid-August, roughly, give or take. And then just using that terminology again, for about mid-year, 400% increase after that. That would still give us that time to kind of sell at the March of 2023 to about April or May of 2023. Again, that is kind of the long-term outlook and just kind of looking at the future tops of this. Again, that would be at around $135,000 Bitcoin. And so that would be very bullish for crypto, and that would be pretty surprising to kind of see what is kind of going on. So we'll see if we have anyone in the chat. No, we don't, but still, I think this has been a very accurate and realistic price predictor. Not always 100% accurate, as I'm not really sure if we're actually going to bottom out towards like 15K and really go down below to the bottom of the buy zone, or if we're just going to kind of tap that 382 at around 23K. Could be interesting nevertheless. If we do end up kind of going the 23K route and just kind of go sideways for a little bit, that would actually just take us towards really looking at just about like August to September roughly, if we just go sideways. Again, that wouldn't necessarily be too bearish, as it will take a while for the buy zone to kind of increase and catch up towards kind of the trend of the price. Remember that overall that we are in a huge uptrend, just looking at the logarithmic chart, as both the bottom and kind of the median to the buy zone and kind of the maximum is always kind of increasing over time in accordance to kind of Bitcoin's price history. So it'll be interesting nevertheless to kind of really be looking at that. So again, this template too is in the Discord. It's under my trading levels. Just be patient to be added to it if you are not, or a new member to it. And again, when using the log chart, make sure to take it on and off. This kind of chart only works for the logarithmic chart, as this is kind of a long-term predictor to it. And remember to be using the Brave New Coin Liquid Index for Bitcoin, specifically on like the weekly or monthly. as that is a long-term kind of view to looking at the Bitcoin price. And then remember that if you end up drawing fibs, for example, make sure to double click on it. Make sure to double click on it, scroll down to the bottom and hit, make sure you take this fib levels based on log scale. That way the fibs will actually be accurate and actually show you accurate values. I know a lot of people who will just kind of ignore that, and then they'll kind of ask me why the values are off. Well, it's because you didn't really take that value. So again, this is kind of more of a quick long-term outlook, but nevertheless, if you guys learn something new, feel free to subscribe and like the video. This has been a pretty accurate predictor of just the long-term outlook of Bitcoin price. This doesn't really work too well on Ethereum and kind of all altcoins, but nevertheless, whenever you see kind of Bitcoin kind of consolidating or coming up towards kind of the maximum of price, typically that is a good idea that you might be wanting to buy into those altcoins quickly and then look for quick take profits within the next week or so. So again, this is not financial advice. It's just a nice reference to kind of look at whenever we are kind of being overbought or oversold. So again, I like to use this. I've been kind of using this since really the 2019. So looking at this, and again, not necessarily we're gonna see price coming down towards really the bottom of the buy zone, which would be like about 15K max pain at the most. But really we kind of bounced off the top of the buy zone, so this could possibly a next move for a leg up. Really what I'm thinking is that we move sideways for about 2 months or so, or a month, and just kind of squiggle sideways into sort of the buy zone for a little bit, and then we accumulate a little bit, and then that will cause price to kind of pump up from that. And again, the first option is really the end of 2022, which is kind of not really starting to play out as much as if we were to kind of bottom. When I was looking at here, I was expecting price to kind of bottom in March, and then that possibility would have been much more probable. But however, just looking at the current price conditions and just kind of seeing how price is moving, really the middle of 2023 would really be the best bet of looking for an all-time high, or really 135K on Bitcoin price. So again, feel free to join the Discord, link in the description. It will be under Gunslinger Trading Levels, and feel free to check out my playlists. I have ExoChart playlists, trading basics, advanced trading, and really just market cipher, just the one indicator that I tend to use. So make sure to like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.